This is Jeff Raskin with the second podcast of Tech for, what do you call our podcast? Tech RE, right? Jeff Raskin here for our second edition of our podcast for Tech 4. We're here to talk about AI, ChatGPT, and other things that we need in real estate. I'm here with my co-host, Jake Young.
Can you even see me right now?
I know, this is crazy. Are you ready for this? I just got this the other day. The coolest thing ever, because I can actually see you. I can see what's going on, but now I can also see everything and literally move things around. My computer, I got Facebook, I got MLS up here. This is the most incredible thing. You got to go try these.
For those of you who are listening to this and not watching the video edition, Jeff is not smoking crack. He is using the MetaQuest virtual reality headset that he just got in the mail. So now he's acting like a 12-year-old because he thinks it's the coolest thing in the world.
It is the coolest thing in the world, by the way. I'm addicted to this, and it's not crack. I'm addicted to this right here. So
the only downside is Jeff has not yet experienced the Apple Vision Pros. Neither have I, but from what I've heard, it's pretty much the exact same thing, but it's made by Apple instead of being made by Facebook.
And it's a lot cheaper.
Yes, to be fair, this headset that Jeff has right here is about $500. The Apple Vision Pros are about, 5 times that at $2,500. So pick and choose your poison. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about artificial intelligence, as well as what artificial intelligence is going to do in the real estate industry. So Jeff, I understand you have a whole gob of questions that you're looking to get answered, and I'd love to hear what they are.
I do. I have a lot of questions for you. So first thing is, how do you think over just the last year or two has AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and ChatGPT changed our world? We'll get into specifically the real estate industry, but just our world in general, because a lot has changed.
Okay, so I loved the question that you were just asking a minute ago about ChatGPT, machine learning, and the whole process of how exactly artificial intelligence works and how it becomes a thing. So machine learning, just want to touch on that real quick. Machine learning, to the point of what Jeff was bringing up, is it's part of the training process for artificial intelligence to learn how to do stuff. There's kind of two major steps that a computer or a robot would have to go through to learn how to perform its task. And that would be supervised human learning and machine learning. In the process of doing supervised human learning, say for example, a robot is working in an apple factory, not necessarily making apples, but packaging them. A human would provide a batch of good apples and a batch of bad apples and train the computer to essentially take all the good apples and package them up inside of a box and discard or put all the bad apples elsewhere. And then once the human gets done supervising the training on the artificial intelligence, the robot, then the machine can take over and do its own learning. And usually when a machine is learning learning how to do this stuff for itself, there's usually some sort of a reward system that has to come into play. So the machine gets rewarded somehow mentally for doing the right thing. Now, with that being said, ChatGPT, what this thing is it's kind of a form of narrow artificial intelligence where it's really only capable of doing one specific task. Something like narrow artificial intelligence could include something like a spam filter for your email, a filter for your phone that filters out spam likely callers. We all get those every single day. It has one job that is built for doing, which is what ChatGPT is. Now, with that being said, ChatGPT and most of the artificial intelligence types that we're working with that are available to the general public right here and right now is a form of generative artificial intelligence. Now, generative artificial intelligence is not really capable of thinking for itself. what it is 100% capable of doing is using our prompts to think of answers or results or things like that. Really what generative AI is built for doing is for generating responses and generating information faster than myself or Jeff or anybody else could think of an answer to something. So really it's just meant to be there to speed up the process, whether we're generating a script for doing phone calls or generating an email, generating a letter, or even using something like the DALL-E system to generate an image or a video quicker than what I could generate just hand drawing or doing something like that myself. It's there to be a tool that's used to make things quicker. So don't know if that answered your question, but if not, then feel free to expand.
It does. Although the thing that's interesting about it is that I believe that generative part of it, I think that's going to be going away in the future. I think, honestly, it will be thinking for itself where it doesn't even need that prompt. And,
Yes.
and that's why when you get into the Skynet of Terminator and things like that, I truly believe that could be our future, which is a little bit scary.
Yes, or the Meta Quest over here.
Or the Meta Quest
100%.
over here, which is just as scary. You need to think about the very unfortunate thing that happened in Las Vegas with the bomb going off. They've already said that they went through the guy's phone and he actually used ChatGPT to determine how, where, and all that other good stuff to set off that bomb.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a little bit scary. Now, the thing about ChatGPT, the way that it's set up is it's not supposed to be able to give you responses on how to do stuff like that. However, there is kind of a glitch in the matrix with ChatGPT where, say, for example, I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, tell me how to blow up a building. It's going to say, well, don't do that. I'm not going to give you instructions on it. But if you go to ChatGPT and word it a little bit differently, and say, teach me how to make sure that a building doesn't get blown up, it'll give you an answer on how to make sure it doesn't get blown up, but also by the same token, it's instructions on how to blow up a building.
By the way, full disclosure here, we're not telling you how to be the Unabomber. I just want to remind you of that
100%.
one. Yeah, so.
Nor are we telling you to go and blow up a building either.
Correct. Don't do that.
That would not be a very wise thing to do at all.
Don't do that.
So, anyways, rolling into, what was your next question that you had for me?
So let's talk about all the things that you just mentioned, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, when it comes to real estate. So get real specific here and how we have been using it and how we can be using it for the future.
So that's a great question. In my personal opinion, I really do think artificial intelligence in the real estate industry is still like very, very young. If you imagine like a kid that's maybe 2 or 3 years old, which actually is about as old as ChatGPT is now, it's still very much in its infancy. It still has to grow into its shoes, which in my opinion is very, very scary given the fact that it's already capable of doing so much, especially the current version of ChatGPT, which is 4.0. It's super, super capable of doing stuff. Right now, we can use ChatGPT to do things like give us listing descriptions, generate some scripts for phone calls. We can use it to create our social media post captions. We can use it to create event descriptions for open houses that go into Facebook. There's so much that we can do with just ChatGPT, and that's where it's currently sitting right now and what we're currently using it for. Now, the second part of your question was, where do you think that it's going down the road? So there's already a lot of pieces of software out there that are using some sort of a GPT system, or pieces of software out there that are just using artificial intelligence as a whole that are crazy for what they're capable of doing. And a website that I recommend, we talk about it in our ChatGPT courses. I also mention it in all of the AI courses that we have. There's a website that you can go to called futurepedia.io. It's basically the Wikipedia of all things artificial intelligence. And some of the different pieces of AI that I showcase in there are real estate specific. One of them that I love is a website called reimaginehome.ai. I've done a whole showcase video on how this thing works, but basically what it's capable of doing is taking a photo that you've taken of a house, Say, for example, it's a picture of a hoard house. There's just boxes and crap and dead cats and whatever you can think of in this picture. You can upload the picture and it can completely and totally wipe everything out of the picture and drop blank walls in its place, replace the flooring, and it can even stage a vacant room, swap out all the furniture in a room. It's a really cool technology, especially given the cost compared to hiring somebody else to virtually stage your images or hiring an actual stager to bring furniture into the home in real life. So that's one aspect that technology is moving in, and that is still a very new piece of technology, and I guarantee will be changing very quickly. Now, there's another website that I love that's kind of like, if you imagine Zillow meets ChatGPT, it's this website called Fly Homes. Now, there's two primary features in there that I love that are artificial intelligence based that I think we'll see a lot more of. We'll see it on Zillow here in the near future, I'm sure. On this website, you can, number one, ask ChatGPT questions about like a specific zip code. It can give you results on schools, what the current mortgage rates are within that zip code, where you can get a loan from. There's actually a filter on there that you can use, like tell it, I want a house with a big backyard. You answer a whole questionnaire, and it uses its GPT-based filters to filter out all of the homes that don't match what you're looking for, and literally presents you with the top 10 homes within the zip code that match what you're looking for, way better than any of the systems in the MLS can, because we as realtors don't, or real estate professionals, don't always put listings into the MLS extremely accurately. Sometimes we miss some of the details. So this thing's looking at the pictures, looking at the property attributions, looking at Google Maps to figure out all these different details. So it's able to filter things down way quicker than you and I can. Plus, there's also one other feature that you can use within the listings on that website that I personally love. What this thing is, we all struggle with buyers who walk into a home, whether it's full of furniture or completely empty with furniture, and they cannot imagine to save their lives what that house would look like with their furniture inside of it. What you can do is you can take the images that are inside of that platform and reimagine them, is what they call it, kind of like the Reimagine Home system. And you can tell it, say, I want to paint the walls pink, I want to swap it out with some medieval style decor or something like that. And it will, not 100% perfectly, but it will give you a good representation of what that room could look like with those changes made to it. So not really something that I would call MLS worthy as far as the graphics are concerned, but we're starting to see some of the basics of what artificial intelligence is going to take shape as in the real estate industry. Now, where it's going to go in the long run, we're not 100% sure, because AI is literally changing on a day-to-day basis. And really, the only thing that's going to stop AI from expanding or really taking over specific things, or I guess not even taking over is really a good word as far as where it's going to go. But what's going to stop the expansion in the real estate industry is really only people running out of ideas of what to do with it, and running out of people to code those ideas into some form of artificial intelligence.
I honestly don't think that anything is stopping AI at this point. I remember about 10 years ago, I walked into a real estate brokerage. It's actually up in Prescott, believe it or not. And they actually said, hey, do you want to see a bunch of homes without driving to the homes? And so I'm like, yeah, what's that all about? And they had one of these wearables, one of these headsets, and I put it on, a little bit different from this one here, but very, very similar. And I used Matterport, and it gave me basically a 3D view where I could actually look around. I would actually put it on, and I could go ahead and I can walk through the house. I can see the ceiling, I could see the bomb, and then I can also just go ahead and look at the next room that I want to go into. It would put me into the room, and after that, I could go ahead and just turn my head, and it was like walking around. I thought it was incredible. I don't know why wearables did not become more popular at that time or even now, but
So I think to answer that question, these wearables, the thing that's really stopping them from taking off is, number one, I think people don't want to get consumed with that virtual reality world. And we still have a good majority of the people on the planet right now are the people who grew up with televisions and moms telling them not to get too close to the TV screen for too long. And what happens when you put on a VR headset? You put it you put the screen right in front of your eyes. So anyways, back to you.
Well, so the other thing that I was going to mention to you is that you were talking about ChatGPT writing a description for you. You don't have to do that anymore. So RPR already has it built in. So it has a version of basically the chat part of it. So you can say, hey, what kind of description do I want? It will give you a social media description of basically a listing, or if you're representing a buyer, anything there. It's already built in, but I've seen so many other websites. Flex MLS does not have it built in right now, but I've seen other MLSs. There's Black Knight. There's some other different vendors out there. They actually do have AI built into it where you just basically show pictures of the home, and it will actually put in the description for you, the whole thing. It will say, hey, look at our upgraded this. It will name the actual ovens and stoves and stuff like that. And it's absolutely incredible technology. And I've seen that, even though we're talking about real estate, even if you sell things online, eBay has AI built into it. You just put it in, it looks at the product, and it will literally give you the whole description right in there. If you Google anything, the very first thing that comes up is, of course, its own ChatGPT system basically telling you what you need to know. And they all have it. Apple, Microsoft, Google.
Yes. So for some reason, I can't remember the name of it off of the top of my head. It's not Panaroo. There's another 360 3D home tour system that I always use or always recommend when I'm doing the virtual tours course. I'm trying to find it right now because for some reason it's not popping into my head.
It happens.
I'll make sure to put it down here on the bottom of the screen. But this particular hosting website, what this thing does is you can walk through a home with a Rico Theta. I know we're not talking virtual tours here, but AI. And you can walk through an entire house with a Rico Theta and capture images of the home, and artificial intelligence from there can actually take that, turn it into a virtual reality tour. It can actually take measurements of the home just off of the images that you took. It also turns it into a video. Plus, here's the real kicker that I think this thing really, I think it's one of the coolest features, is this thing actually has a GPT system in it where it takes a look at the images that have been generated or taken by this Rico Theta, takes a look at the property attributions and the location on Google Maps, and it generates the listing description for you. So we're very quickly moving in that direction where AI is going to turn real estate into more of a one-stop shop for us real estate professionals. And in that respect, I don't think it's going to replace us by any means, but what it's going to do is it's going to make our jobs a lot easier.
A lot easier.
Now, with that being said, though, as our jobs get easier, we're going to start running into a lot more people, of course, who have that mentality of, shoot, I don't need a realtor to do this for me. I can just use ChatGPT or whatever platform I want to use. You know, I've got a Rico Theta. I can just use this platform and go host my own listing on it. So we are going to have to combat a lot more of that ego of people wanting to do their own stuff, but that's going to be a little bit further down the road before I think people get that confident with using AI. So to be fair, most of the general public is still pretty scared of AI as it stands now.
I think they're scared of AI. And by the way, just to go back to your statement, remember, everybody thinks that they can do real estate, right?
Yes.
And I mean, but look at the FSBOs out there. How many of them sell at the price that we could have got for them? A whole different podcast at a different time. But I want to remind you that people do get cocky and they do think that technology is just going to take over our jobs. And I don't believe that.
No. The big thing that's going to keep artificial intelligence from being able to take stuff over, Sophia, the humanoid robot's a perfect example of this. Yes, AI can build its own personality. It can interact with you. You can use AI chatbots. We've had Cleverbot that's been out for 15 years now. That's massively outdated technology at this point. You have robots like Sophia the humanoid, where AI takes the form of a human. But the thing of it is AI, number one, AI needs the human touch in order to be able to grow. It cannot evolve without human input. It's built that way on purpose. But also, we as humans need human-to-human interaction. Even the strongest introvert that could crawl into a cave and live there for a month at a time is still going to get to a point where they crave human interaction, and artificial intelligence cannot do that. We as real estate professionals, somebody's looking at buying a house. There's brokerages that are famous for letting people walk into homes by themselves and just touring them on their own time. They're still missing that human interaction. They're not getting that feedback on the home. They're not getting the information that they're necessarily longing for or looking for. They can get what they can get off of Zillow or off of the internet, but they're not getting the information that you and I can provide. So they're going to miss that human touch. And sure, like we were saying a minute ago, there's probably going to be a phase of time where people say, you know what, I don't need human interaction to help me buy a house. But even the people that say that, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's going to be a pretty slim amount of the population that will say, I don't need human interaction when I'm buying a home.
I think it's going to be a very small percentage. Basically for a high-end product or the price point, right? I could go in, and you're right, I don't need, if I'm buying a Coke or if I'm buying a thing of popcorn or whatever, or a pen, I get it. I can price shop on Amazon, eBay, whatever the case may be. This is a product that basically we're selling the highest price thing that they'll ever buy in their life for the most part. And of course, we both know that there are no two homes that are identical. The lay of the land, everything is going to be a little bit different. So I think they're going to need us for a long time.
And that's the one thing also with AI. Yes, it can look at the attributions of the home for sure, but AI has never walked through the house like you and I have. So anyways, on to the next. What else are you thinking with artificial intelligence?
I think that was a really good explanation of how it's interacting with our everyday world, with real estate. I really want to mention this one more time, how you mentioned that our jobs are not being taken over, right? Other industries, I get it, they have. I understand other industries are getting a little bit scared. I just don't see it for us real estate professionals at this point in time. I get it, maybe way after I'm long gone, maybe you're going to get there one of these days, but
going to be in the age of the Jetsons before that happens.
And when that happens, right? But I just don't see it taking over our job anytime. I think it's going to enhance. It already has enhanced what we do. It's just going to make it easier to get the information and to get it out there in a more professional manner.
Yeah, no, 100%. We have AI assistants that are available now. We have AI that's able to optimize our schedules, our calendars. It's capable of doing all of this stuff for us to the point where we don't even have to touch it. We just tell it like, hey, look, these are my priorities. This is what I want to get done. Fit this on my calendar wherever it best goes. So it's not just the real estate industry that's not the real estate industry that's benefiting from this, but all industries are. So you've asked me this, but where exactly do you think artificial intelligence is going in the real estate industry, and how do you see it evolving? So you've got my perspective from the younger generation. I want to hear what you have to say in the older generation that's learning to use this for the first time.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The older generation, my generation, right, we don't like change, although then again, nobody likes change. But I think people have really used this and are starting to use this, not quite be as scared. I think a lot of people were scared about it taking over their job. But now that we've established it's not taking over our job, people still need human interaction for, once again, the most expensive thing they'll ever buy in their lifetime. And once again, AI is not walking through these homes. We are. We know what we're talking about. I think we're going to be able to negotiate better than AI right now. In the future, might be a little bit different, but I think right now, I still think that we definitely have a jump on artificial intelligence, personally.
I'd be scared if AI was writing my contracts.
That would be very scary, although you know that they do have that, right? Yeah.
I will say one thing about AI, though, that you guys have to watch out for, especially in the real estate world. AI, number one, does not go very deep with the answers that it gives out. It is very, very shallow in the responses that it gives to anybody at any given time. So be aware of that. But I've also tested ChatGPT out. I've used it in components, like if I need to get through writing something really quickly for a class, it's a great tool to use. But if you try and ask ChatGPT about rules regarding real estate, ask ChatGPT someday about R428-1101 and see what it has to say. It will not give you a correct answer. So when we're talking about R428-1101 section I, which talks about making sure that everybody gets accurate information relevant to the contemplated transaction, please make sure that you're using ChatGPT sparingly for that. And if you get an answer from ChatGPT, guys, you have to be a fact checker with that stuff. So that's why I say ChatGPT is great for generating creative responses and emails and things, but it's not great for taking care of the legalities of real estate.
I think that is super important, what you just said, because, if you say, well, okay, where is this house located? And it says, well, it's right next to the church right down the street. Well,
Yeah.
It's not going to take fair housing into the description, and so we're going to have to now teach it to say, hey, by the way, 9 protected classes, 7 from HUD, 2 from NAR. It's going to go, what's NAR? So in other words, we're going to have to teach it. We're going to have to put that information in there, and then go ahead and now allow it. But it's always fact checking. You probably know and probably heard about that lawyer right before court. He didn't prepare, and he literally used ChatGPT to do his whole dissertation. And sure
Yikes.
enough, it was all wrong. It was incorrect. It was non-factual. Right, basically everything was made up, and the clerks of the judge, they caught it, and the guy got in a lot of trouble.
Yikes.
Yeah. So don't do that.
So just kind of building off of what we were talking about a minute ago with ChatGPT not necessarily feeding us correct information, I do want to point out 2 things about ChatGPT. Is that, number one, it's very, very easy to take a look at ChatGPT or anything that's been written by ChatGPT and figure out that it's been written by ChatGPT. For example, if you're asking it to write you an email, you're always going to want to change the intro to it, because every single time it writes an email, it will say, hi, hopefully this email finds you well, or something along those lines. It's always the exact same thing. So make sure, well, that's where having a brand voice comes in handy. We'll talk about that at a different time. You can ask ChatGPT to talk like you and speak like you, which actually I've done it in the past. It works really good with the 4.0 version. I'm sure versions that are newer than 4.0, when those come out, will also be really good at it. But it can take a look at the way that you type, the way that you talk, and it can respond in similar ways to how you're typing and talking. So it is capable of doing that. But also, just like we were saying, watch out for the errors that come along with it, just because it's not super, super accurate. And like we say in our ChatGPT course as well, you want to be super specific with the prompts that you're giving it, because if you're not super specific, it will feed out all kinds of stuff that's not correct, or it'll start making stuff up as well. So be aware of that. And gosh, I can't remember the other thing I was going to say.
I was going to say with the email, so I have a couple of virtual assistants who are overseas, and they actually use chat to go ahead and produce their emails for them. So it sounds a little bit more like American English than others. So I want to let you know they use that. And then also you mentioned something about you didn't say avatar specifically, but I want to mention to you, I have a program that I use. It's Camtasia to make videos. And they just came out with a separate component of it where you can go ahead and it will recognize your face. You can type in whatever you want, and it will actually go ahead and produce it for you. It will actually have you talk. But here's the best part of it all. You can do it in any language. So another one, maybe not any language, but there was like 50 different languages on there. So in other words, I can say, hey, here's my speech, and go ahead and say it in Chinese. And literally, it will have your face, the facial expressions obviously will change according, but you can do it in Chinese, and I don't know how perfectly accurate it's going to be translated from English.
I don't know
into
Chinese, so I can't tell you.
So I wouldn't be able to tell you either. But it was pretty incredible. I mean, when I went through their seminar just a couple of weeks ago, I mean, people were like, "Wow, this is pretty mind blowing."
There's another platform that I've taken a good serious look at. I've played around with it a little bit called Synthesia.io, and it's kind of similar to what Jeff is talking about with avatars and fake people recording videos. I mean, I exported one of the videos out of Synthesia, and it's actually insane how fluid these avatars are moving around, and that kind of goes into a whole category of things called deep fakes, which we won't get into today. We do have a whole section inside of our AI in your pocket course that goes over the reality of deep fakes, and that stuff is really
Super
scary. You probably remember back in late 2023 when ChatGPT was really just starting to break through the surface. There was a video that came out of Will Smith eating spaghetti. I'm sure you probably remember how it did not look realistic whatsoever. Not at all. I've seen a comparison of that video between a recently created version of Will Smith eating spaghetti, and he's gotten a lot more realistic. Like, you can still tell that it's fake, but he's gotten way more realistic. Also, going along those lines, take a look at videos of, there's
Tom Cruise.
Yes, Tom Cruise.
You got to go look at Tom Cruise and his deep fake. You can't tell the difference. His voice, his mannerism, everything. You're like, that's Tom Cruise, and of course it's not.
I do actually use that in my AI course. There's a video of Tom Cruise and Paris Hilton floating around on YouTube like they're getting ready to go out on a date. You wouldn't know it's fake whatsoever. Now, you need a super powerful supercomputer to render a video like that, but if you want to see something that's really simple, look for a video of Anderson Cooper or Morgan Freeman on YouTube, and you'll see a really good example of those. So anyways, thoughts on deepfakes. What are your opinions on them?
I thought you weren't going to go here today on this one, but...
Well, keep it brief. Just keep it brief.
It's scary, and because deep fakes go more than just the video part of it, you need to think about being able to utilize my voice. So let's say that I call my kid, or did I, and they hear on the other end, hi, this is Dad, and I just want to let you know I was in a car accident and wondering if you could go ahead and send me some money that I need just in the meantime. I happen to be taking a business trip over here in New York, and my voice is identical. The way that I talk is identical. Accents, everything is there, and you wouldn't know the difference. And that's what scares me.
Yes, there's platforms like myvocal.ai. Granted, you have to go through like a whole script reading process to, like, in order for it to clone your voice, but there are other platforms. Like, actually, let me use this example. I'm not going in super deep on this, but probably about 2 years ago or so, the pastor at my church took off to go on vacation. He usually takes a 2-month break every year, and we had a guest in his place, and they decided to use some AI platform, I'm not sure which one it is, and they had it listen to like 250 hours worth of my pastor talking, and they recorded it like it was a pre-recorded voicemail for our guest pastor in his place, and you would never have known, aside from the fact that it was talking like he doesn't usually talk, language-wise, that it wasn't him. Because, number one, the voice cloning is really good, but then you also mask it. When you talk to somebody on the phone, it sounds a little bit fuzzy, a little bit off. They did the exact same thing there, so that's how they hid it. Anyways, that's kind of getting us out of the realm of real estate, but it's still stuff that's super important to know.
Yeah, I would just be aware that it does exist. There are going to be scams, a lot of scams based on that. So the other thing really quick, not to get into a different subject of cybersecurity. I know we're going down the road. But, make sure that you do have a code word for your family to be sure that in case you might be a little bit sketchy, whether it's that person or not, maybe have a code word that only your family knows to make sure that you know that it's actually you.
Pineapples.
There we go. Bananas.
Maybe don't use the same code word that you use when you're in bed. That's not the smart thing to do.
This is G-rated show, by the way.
Yes.
Maybe PG sometimes, yes.
Yes, let's definitely be aware of that. But anything else that you're seeing with AI in the real estate industry? Anything that sticks out to you, or any other questions on your mind?
The only thing I could think of is I know that it is changing very rapidly for real estate. Of course, fintech, of course, everything that is the billions of dollars that is being thrown into real estate technology is out there because they know that it is, well, they feel that it's an untapped market that is worth, well, it is trillions of dollars. So
Yeah.
I know that they're throwing a lot of money into this. So I think we're going to see a lot more changes in not only this year, 2025, but in the coming years.
Yeah, and that's the part that scares the ever-living daylights out of me, the more and more that we think about it.
Right.
But with that being said, guys, that's where we're going to leave you with episode 2 of the Tech 4 podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been so good having you here. Hopefully you guys got some really good artificial intelligence information out of this stuff. And Jeff has given the official endorsement of the Meta Quest. So with that being said, guys, we will see you.
So fun.
No, that's what he says. But anyways, yes, I tried it out. It is cool. But with that being said, we'll feature this in another episode, and we will see you all in the next episode of Tech 4.